Terrible?
Thank you for reminding.
No problem.
So I will start in brief and then we can continue with introducing you. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So sesi pagi ini dengan topik capaian pembelajaran untuk Anda, mahasiswa Anda dan program Anda, presented by Dr. Samantha Catrara from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I'm going to introduce her for a bit. Saya akan memperkenalkan sedikit mengenai beliau.
Lilian.
Yeah. So, Dr. Samantha Catrara is a PhD in education dalam bidang pendidikan, graduated from York University in 2012. And this is about what you do, right?
I can introduce myself. You don't
All
need
right, all
to.
right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Oke, baik Bapak Ibu. Jadi dalam sesi hari ini waktunya tidak banyak, hanya sampai setengah 11, sekitar 90 menit, tapi akan kita maksimalkan untuk kita bisa mempelajari mengenai materi ini. Setelah ini langsung akan saya berikan waktunya untuk Samantha dan dalam beberapa poin ketika beliau sudah menjelaskan, mungkin akan saya clarify atau saya terjemahkan sedikit dalam bahasa Indonesia supaya pemahaman kita semua bisa sama. Seperti itu. Alright, Samantha, the time is yours.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for the invitation. Thank you so much for doing the translating and translating the slides. I realized when I got the slides that even though I had written them, I still can't read them in Indonesian. So I'll be looking down here for the English slides just so everybody knows.
Yes. Ya,
So
jadi ya Samantha juga sambil lihat ya dalam bahasa Inggrisnya. Oke.
So, the reason why I have titled this Learning Outcomes for You, Your Students, and Your Program is because I have found that when people are talking about learning outcomes, it can be so program focused and so program minded that educators who really care about their students, and in my experience, educators always care about their students, feel like their students get lost. And so this presentation will focus on all those aspects, but also ensuring that your students aren't lost in the development of learning outcomes.
Oke. Ya, jadi menurut Samantha, kadang pengajar atau pendidik di Indonesia atau dimanapun ya, sangat fokus terhadap learning outcomes, capaian pembelajarannya apa gitu. Jadi mungkin agak lost, agak kehilangan di dalam programnya sebenarnya apa gitu. Jadi di dalam topik hari ini kita akan mempelajari mengenai lebih dalam mengenai capaian pembelajaran, juga learning outcome, CPL, CPMK gitu nanti ya, supaya kita tidak get lost inti dari programnya itu apa dan kita bisa guide mahasiswa kita untuk lebih tahu soal itu. Oke, Samantha.
So, as Priska was saying earlier, I have a PhD from York University in Toronto, and that is in education. And my focus has always been on student focused education, critical theory, things like that, specifically related to history education. So, my first book, Transforming the Canadian History Classroom, was really about, again, student focused critical education.
Oke, jadi fokusnya dalam teori krisis dan pendidikan sama seperti yang sudah ditulis di slide ini ya, student centric. Jadi berpusat pada murid, kemudian dia banyak mengenai fokusnya pada pendidikan sejarah. Jadi yang talk di sini ditulis yang UBC Press 2020, Transforming Canadian History Classroom, mengenai sejarah Kanada, transformasi sejarah Kanada di kelas. Okay.
And while I was always interested in K to 12 education, what I found was that when you are, when you really know education well, and that happens when you're focused on K to 12, then those things that you're learning translates well into other spaces of education. So museums, but also higher education. And so I have found that the work that I do, even though it started with history, has been able to translate to a lot of different areas, which is why it was such a privilege to be invited to talking to all of you about physical education and teaching teachers about how to do PE, because again, there are so many central tenets that are related to student-centric education. And now I'm actually building curriculum related to health in higher education at Queen's University.
Okay, that's interesting. Alright, jadi Samantha ini walaupun berangkat dari pendidikan sejarah, tapi menurut dia karena dia fokusnya ke K-12 education ya, dari TK, SMA, sampai ke higher education, sampai ke pendidikan tinggi. Jadi dengan memahami itu, walaupun berangkat dari pendidikan sejarah, tapi juga bisa ke pendidikan yang lain gitu, mau bidang apapun. Jadi dia juga sangat merasa senang pagi ini bisa sharing dengan kita semua yang dalam bidang pendidikan jasmani. Nah, saat ini juga bagaimana karena ini lebih ke kurikulum ya, kurikulum kemudian nanti mengenai capaian pembelajaran, juga bagaimana mengajar guru karena mahasiswa kita nanti akan menjadi calon-calon guru, pelatih gitu. Jadi mengajar guru untuk menyampaikan materi terkait pendidikan atau kurikulum. Juga saat ini Samantha sedang mengembangkan kurikulum kesehatan di Queen's University, di mana dia mengajar sekarang. Samantha.
I should also say I'm used to presenting much faster with a lot more jokes. So this is going to take some getting used to, but I hope it'll be as entertaining for you.
Iya, iya. Juga Samantha tuh suka guyon gitu ya, Bapak Ibu sebenarnya gitu. Cuman karena sesi hari ini ada butuh sedikit waktu untuk translate atau terjemah, jadi mungkin agak ya sedikit di-cut di beberapa bagian.
So
Oke.
today, I'm going to I'm going to start by saying what is curriculum. Now, I'm sure you all know that. I'm sure that is what, those are things that you think about all the time. But I find it's useful to begin these conversations with just those definitions. Then we'll talk about learning outcomes, writing learning outcomes, program learning outcomes, and course learning outcomes, the relationship between those. You can practice if you want, and I have a couple examples I want to show you, and then I'll open up the floor for any questions.
Oke, jadi untuk menu hari ini, topiknya pertama kita akan bahas mengenai apa itu kurikulum. Kemudian tadi dia bilang pasti semua dari kita sudah paham ya apa itu kurikulum. Kemudian selanjutnya capaian akan masuk ke capaian pembelajaran, learning outcomes. Kemudian menulis capaian pembelajaran, writing the learning outcomes. Kemudian capaian pembelajaran lulusan. Nah, ini bahasa Inggrisnya agak sedikit berbeda. eh, Program learning outcomes gitu. Tapi kemudian diterjemahkan dengan istilah yang biasa kita gunakan di Indonesia menjadi capaian pembelajaran lulusan. Dan kemudian juga course learning outcomes, CLO, dan capaian pembelajaran mata kuliah. Setelah itu ada praktek sedikit mungkin mengenai CPL dan CPMK, kemudian questions. Jadi di akhir nanti ada sesi juga untuk diskusi. Samantha.
I feel like I should figure out where you are on the slide so I can do the same like hand gestures when
Ah,
you're saying it. No, I mean that's a joke, but also,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I will just follow you and
Okay, so what is curriculum? As maybe you also know, curriculum gets a bit of a bad rap, and the etymology, the history of the word is a course to run, and it wasn't until the Calvinist tradition, so Christian tradition, when it started meaning an ordering of education, and that was only about two centuries ago, well, like early 1800s. It wasn't really that long. The formalization of curriculum has been happening, relatively speaking, fairly quickly from when the word curriculum became used for education and now.
Oke. Jadi mulai dari etimologinya, kurikulum berarti suatu lintasan lari. Kemudian ketika ada tradisi Calvinis, mulai diarahkan menjadi pengertiannya menjadi pengurutan pendidikan gitu. Ordering of Education sekitar tahun 1800-an. Oke, Samantha.
So, all education has a curriculum, whether it is explicitly defined or not. And this is why people have a hard time, or this is why curriculum can sometimes get a bad rap, because curriculum has been understood generally to be this written, codified document of all the rules, and people think like it's, this big scary thing. But as I'm sure you know as well, that all curriculum, all educational experiences have a curriculum. It is the definition of the implicit or explicit definition of what is going to be covered during a specific educational unit. And it is related to what you're going to know, what you're going to do, and also what you're going to value. And that value part is as important as what gets written down. And again, that sometimes gets lost.
Ya, jadi semua pengalaman pendidikan di jenjang apapun ya, di sekolahan, sekolah formal, non formal, tingkat apapun, tadi dari TK sampai sekolah menengah, kemudian di perguruan tinggi itu memiliki kurikulum. Bahkan ketika kurikulum itu tidak didefinisikan by itself dengan sendirinya gitu. Jadi dipahami mengenai banyak aturan, perencanaan, baik itu eksplisit atau implisit tentang apa yang seharusnya diketahui, dilakukan, dihargai, value oleh seseorang di akhir pengalaman pendidikannya. Jadi ini untuk memastikan supaya mahasiswa itu tidak get lost gitu ya. Jadi tidak tidak kemudian menjadi tidak paham dengan apa yang dipelajari. Samantha.
Sometimes when people who are resistant to writing learning outcomes come come and complain to me, they are so focused on, oh, what if the class needs something different? Like what is happening if we just need to do different things in the class? If you have learning outcomes, you are so bound to that particular thing. And that's why I think it's important to remember those values,
Ya.
that we can bring that in as well. So in the document that I looked at related to Indonesian PE curriculum, there's something about cooperation. So, you can teach the skill of cooperation, but the values of cooperation can also be a learning outcome. And that is just as powerful as the skills of cooperation and the skills related to different sports. And so I don't want to leave that behind, because there's actually 8 different types of curriculum. We won't spend the whole time talking about them, but I find they're useful to get us out of thinking about written curriculum being the only thing that we're focusing on.
Oke, jadi ada 8 jenis kurikulum dan hanya salah satunya yang merupakan kurikulum tertulis. Itu tadi yang disampaikan oleh Samantha. Mungkin kita juga ya Bapak Ibu, atau mungkin di awal semester gitu, awal perkuliahan kita ada nih untuk capaian pembelajarannya apa, tertulis di dalam kurikulum. Tapi kemudian tidak apa ya, dilihat lagi untuk semester-semester berikutnya gitu. Jadi kita tidak terlalu memperhatikan mengenai kurikulum yang tertulis itu seperti apa. Nah, tadi dikatakan oleh Samantha yang harus kita ingat adalah value-nya. Jadi apa yang kita mau siswa kita hargai ya kalau di sini untuk itu ya, atau nilai apa yang kita mau siswa kita punya di dalam pembelajaran itu gitu. Jadi di pengembangan kurikulum PI di Indonesia yang mungkin Samantha kerjasama dengan Prof. Cali juga ya. Ini salah satunya mengenai cooperation atau kerjasama. Nah, jadi bukan hanya mengejarkan bagaimana itu kerjasama, tetapi juga bagaimana siswa itu memiliki nilai kerjasama di akhir pembelajaran gitu dengan kurikulum yang ada. Jadi tertulis dalam capaian pembelajaran, tapi kemudian bisa dikembangkan menjadi mereka paham mengenai nilai itu, menghargai nilai itu, dan bisa menggunakannya dalam skill atau kemampuan terkait kerjasama dalam bidang apapun. Setelah ini kita akan melihat jenis-jenis kurikulum. Samantha.
Oh, sorry. There was too many
Motions.
animations. I didn't notice. There we go.
Oke.
So our 8 types of curriculum.
Ya.
So I'm sorry, I realized I did not provide a citation for this, but I certainly can. I did not come up with this. But when we're thinking about curriculum, sometimes we'll usually talk about the written curriculum. Sometimes we also talk about I assume number 8 at the bottom says hidden curriculum. People will talk about that as well. But there is again important that there are 8 types of curriculum. I have found that this has been really useful for my own educational practice when
Mhm.
I look at like the learning outcomes I've created, and then I compare it to the other types of things that I'm doing. How much in alignment are these? So the 8 types of curriculum are the written curriculum. So that's actually the written document. But then you too will do a curriculum about what you're teaching. Often they are in alignment, but sometimes there are different things related to values. Do you want to translate that before I keep going? I don't want to go too far.
Alright. Ya, jadi ini adalah 8 jenis kurikulum. Seperti yang dikatakan tadi, kurikulum tertulis adalah salah satu jenis di antaranya. Ya, tapi jadi kayak yang nomor 8 tadi disampaikan, hidden curriculum, ada kurikulum tersembunyi. Jadi mungkin tidak tertulis, tetapi dia implisit begitu. Bisa diajarkan melalui nilai-nilai yang ada untuk menjadi salah satu yang dicapai di dalam kelas.
Then there is the assessed curriculum. Now, this is very, very important. And I was saying to our hosts earlier before everybody got on that the alignment with learning outcomes and assessment is really important. And I have found in a Canadian context, because sometimes people are resistant to learning outcomes, that when we talk about assessment too quickly, people tune out. So I'm not talking about assessment too much here, although I know the context is different, but whatever you are assessing is also a curriculum in itself. And it is very common that is out of alignment because people will create the learning outcomes, create their lectures or the assessment the pedagogical tools, and then they'll assess on something completely different. So assessment is a key piece on that. And honestly, if you take nothing away, really think about the alignment between what you're saying you're going to do and then what you test on.
Hmm. Oke, jadi kata kuncinya adalah alignment atau ada hubungan begitu ya. Jadi antara apa yang diajarkan dan apa yang dinilai. Ini tadi yang sebelum sesi sempat diskusi juga Samantha juga dengan Prof. Charlie dan Samantha juga agree nanti akan ada part 2 begitu ya Prof. Untuk membahas mengenai evaluasi atau assessment ini secara khusus gitu. Karena jadi yang tidak boleh dilupakan bahwa apapun yang dinilai itu sebenarnya juga bagian dari kurikulum. Jadi untuk melihat capaian pembelajaran ketika ada penilaian yang dilakukan oleh pengajar itu adalah inti untuk kita melihat ketercapaian ya dari capaian pembelajaran apa yang diketahui tadi ya diketahui kemudian nilai apa yang dipelajari oleh mahasiswa. Jadi kata kuncinya di alignment. Jadi apa yang diajarkan kemudian apa yang di-assess itu adalah hal yang ada keterhubungannya gitu, bukan hal yang berbeda.
Okay, and then there's the supported curriculum. So, for example, in this professional association, whatever resources you're able to get from that association, that becomes supported. The textbooks that you use, that is part of that support. And it's not the same as recommended curriculum, but that they can often blend together. So, for example, if your principal or the leader of the school says, oh, we got a lot of these soccer balls. Maybe just do more, football, I guess. Then do more of like these sports, do more of these sports than these sports. Those are the types of like recommended curriculum that can also come from experts like yourselves as well. Then there's also the learned curriculum. So you can put together a really great plan, but what students are going to get could be very, very different. And so those are all the different types of things that are happening in the same type of lessons.
Iya. Oke, jadi dari satu pembelajaran, satu lesson, satu mata kuliah gitu ya, ada banyak yang dipelajari oleh mahasiswa, oleh siswa kita. Nah, tadi yang dibahas mengenai kurikulum pendukung ya, nomor 4. Nah, kurikulum pendukung ini tadi dikatakan oleh Samantha bisa dari mana saja. Misalnya dari asosiasi, misalnya ada untuk seperti ini ya, kayak FKPPS gitu. Kemudian ada forum yang mengumpulkan pengajar-pengajar mengenai pendidikan jasmani. Kemudian ada beberapa mata kuliah yang disepakati untuk menjadi pembelajaran yang harus kita pelajari bersama. Kemudian juga ada buku paket. Nah, ada buku paket yang digunakan mungkin berbeda dari satu sekolah atau satu perguruan tinggi dengan perguruan tinggi yang lain. Nah, ini juga bisa mempengaruhi atau menjadi kurikulum pendukung, menjadi bagian. Bisa juga dari experts, seperti saat ini belajar dari Samantha gitu, misalnya mengenai kurikulum. Kemudian dari yang lain lagi gitu. Nah, ada banyak hal yang bisa menjadi kurikulum pendukung yang mempengaruhi pembelajaran itu sendiri. Di gambar ini ya bisa dilihat bahwa dari satu course, satu lingkaran ini yang seperti bunga, ada banyak mencakup 8 jenis kurikulum ini gitu. Jadi selain kurikulum tertulis, tadi ada juga kurikulum yang diajarkan, dievaluasi atau diakses tadi ya, kemudian kurikulum pendukung. Samantha?
So all of these things are happening every time you interact with your students, or not even every time you interact with your students, because it happens when they go home and do homework as well. And it can be very disparate. But the thing that we want to do the most is get them aligned with each other. And of course, it's not always perfect. We can't guarantee what students are going to learn, even though we're assessing them on certain things. That might just mean sometimes they're good memorizers. We never really know what students learn, but which is totally okay, by the way. Everyone is different. But the best thing is that we align them as closely as possible, because that makes a stronger educational experience for our students. And when you are teaching your teacher candidates, even though they might not have the skills and expertise to be able to do this yet, even just flagging for them these different types of curriculum can help them think about the different ways that you are approaching a lesson, a course, a whole unit. And this is central to what we're talking about when it comes to learning outcomes.
Ya, jadi ini semua terjadi ya dalam setiap interaksi yang dilakukan oleh guru dengan siswa atau mahasiswa di kelas. Tidak hanya di kelas, bahkan di luar kelas. Saya dikatakan ketika dia bikin PR gitu, ketika dosennya atau gurunya memberikan tugas, tugas mandiri, tugas terstruktur gitu. Nah, itu tadi Samantha katakan kita tidak pernah benar-benar tahu ya siswa kita itu belajar apa gitu, apa yang dari kita ajarkan dia sudah pelajari, nilai-nilai apa yang sudah kita dapat gitu. Makanya ada learning outcomes atau capaian pembelajaran yang harus ditulis itu menjadi goal kita ketika kita mengajar, sehingga kita oh ya nanti dengan penilaian ini kita mau ngecek bagaimana pemahaman siswa atau seperti apa gitu. Dengan ini ya kurikulum yang diajarkan, evaluasi, kemudian dari kurikulum pendukung ada banyak aspek gitu. Tapi jadi untuk kata kuncinya seperti tadi adalah alignment. Jadi ada penyelarasan, ada hubungan begitu dari apa yang berusaha kita sampaikan, nilai-nilai apa yang kita mau mahasiswa kita punya dengan cara kita mengetahuinya seperti apa supaya itu bisa menjadi apa ya, capaian pembelajarannya jadi tercapai begitu. Samantha.
So, as I said before, while people will also say like the written curriculum and hidden curriculum, I think it's important to remember that when we're not recognizing and defining these other curricular elements that are happening in the educational experience, that they all become hidden as well. They become the assumptions, the values, the standards, the expectations that we are imposing on our students without being formally explicit about what they are doing and needing. So, for example, I have like a history degree in my undergrad, right? I learned that a value of history was good writing because of the assessment models. But nobody ever explicitly said that to me. I had to learn it by recognizing that's how I was going to be assessed. Now, English is my first language. That wasn't a problem for me and writing. But for some students that had multiple languages they were coming into the classroom, they realized that was a hidden curriculum that they had to now overcome before being successful in the course. And I say successful because a good grade doesn't necessarily mean they learned everything or that they felt successful, right? Learning again is a spectrum and it's not always tied to grades. That's what I mean when I say student-centric education. So I think it's as important as possible to make these explicit so that we're getting things like expectations and values and standards out in the open for our students.
Oke. Ya, jadi eh, jenis yang terakhir ya, yang kedelapan adalah kurikulum tersembunyi. Nah, dari semua kurikulum ini tadi dalam pengalaman pembelajaran satu learning experience ada 8 kurikulum ini. Nah, ada elemen tersembunyi di balik semua ini. Di sini tadi dikatakan termasuk asumsi, nilai, standar, dan ekspektasi. Nah, itu yang mungkin di dalam kurikulum atau yang stated tidak dikatakan langsung. Tadi Samantha memberikan contoh waktu pada saat tingkat S1 di perguruan tinggi dia belajar mengenai sejarah. Nah, dia belajar bahwa yang penting itu adalah writing skill ya, jadi menulis begitu. Nah, cara belajar dengan menulis itu tidak dikatakan secara eksplisit oleh gurunya, oleh dosennya waktu itu gitu. Tapi kemudian dia belajar dari pengalaman yang dilakukan di kelas, ada perlu banyak menulis gitu ya, apalagi soal sejarah ya, karena kan harus menghafalkan seperti itu. Nah, jadi dikatakan juga tadi bahwa ketika kita melakukan assessment atau penilaian kepada siswa, mungkin nilainya bagus gitu. Tapi juga sebenarnya mungkin dengan nilai bagus tidak berarti bahwa dia memahami gitu ya, bahwa apa yang kita ajarkan itu sudah
Nah,
betul-betul
kalau kita
dipahami.
sudah
Nah,
berakhir
jadi
Bapak Ibu, insya Allah besok
eh,
itu terakhir kegiatan kita.
terus ada mengenai kurikulum tersembunyi ini, yang penting tadi adalah value-nya, apa yang mau kita ajarkan, supaya itu bisa kemudian kita terjemahkan menjadi materi pembelajaran, ada alignment ya, penyelarasan, dan kita juga mengetahui harapannya siswa kita memahami apa yang kita ajarkan, bukan hanya dengan nilai yang bagus, tetapi memegang nilai itu sampai eh, akhir. Jadi dari hasilnya itu nanti setelahnya juga bisa mereka pahami. Samantha.
So I say all of this. I start with this curriculum, even though I know all of you as scholars in education know a lot of these things as already, because the movement to more explicit curriculum is make degrees more responsive to needs beyond academia. That's a conversation that happens in Canada a lot. Like, well, let's make sure we're formalizing certain skills and knowledges for student in the workplace, but also accountability and also to ensure the quality of programs. And that is again from a that's from again a quality accountability standard. And so that is often how people are introduced to learning outcomes. I don't know how you all were, but it often is this way to make it more accountable and responsive to the world beyond academia. But I'll wait for the but until after the translation.
Alright. Ya, jadi pergerakannya ke arah kurikulum yang lebih eksplisit ya. Jadi tidak hanya tadi tertulis, tetapi tujuannya kan ketika mereka belajar, apalagi di tingkat perguruan tinggi, bukan hanya untuk gelar gelar pendidikan saja, tetapi supaya apa yang dipelajari itu menjadikan seseorang lebih responsif terhadap kebutuhan di luar dunia akademik gitu. Jadi juga untuk maintain, untuk mempertahankan akuntabilitas, kemudian menjaga kualitas, menjamin kualitas program, ya program studi, program pembelajaran, juga supaya pendidikannya lebih berpusat pada siswa, mahasiswa, student center, dan lebih banyak peluang untuk menguak aspek-aspek tersembunyi gitu. Nah, tapi,
Most people, when they introduce learning outcomes, they will talk about those first three things as really important, and they might even frame it with really important language. But the other part about the importance of making curriculum very explicit through things like learning outcomes is that it makes it more student centric, and there are more opportunities for you to uncover yourself and to articulate the hidden aspects of the different parts of curriculum. I think it's really important when we are writing and developing learning outcomes to think of them as commitments you are making to your students. And this, I think, is the best, most educator centric way and student centric way to come to learning outcomes.
oke. Jadi mengenai capaian pembelajaran, tadi kan ada 5 hal yang di slide sebelumnya yang disampaikan mengenai akuntabilitas, kemudian ada soal em, apa tadi? Menjamin mutu dari pendidikan itu sendiri, kemudian membuat gelar pendidikan lebih responsif. Nah, itu mungkin yang disampaikan di awal kelas mengenai capaian pembelajaran. Tapi tadi yang disampaikan, yang 2 terakhir itu lebih penting atau dianggap menjadi lebih penting karena jadi kita menjanjikan kepada siswa untuk supaya pendidikan ini berpusat pada siswa. Ya, dalam satu kelas ada banyak siswa dengan berbagai macam latar belakang dan karakter yang mungkin cara belajarnya bukan mungkin ya. Mungkin kebanyakan juga berbeda-beda cara belajarnya gitu. Jadi untuk membuka lebih banyak peluang menguak aspek-aspek tersembunyi, tadi ada 8 ya. Kemudian dalam pengalaman pembelajaran, bagaimana bisa melihat untuk aspek-aspek atau nilai-nilai yang tersembunyi lainnya. Nah, ini yang Samantha katakan bahwa sebaiknya sebagai pengajar, sebagai pendidik, kita memiliki komitmen antara kita dengan mahasiswa atau siswa kita supaya kita juga bisa mendapatkan 2 hal ini. Jadi pendidikannya itu bukan teacher centered tapi student centered, dan juga ada banyak peluang soal aspek-aspek tersembunyi yang kita bisa pelajari. Samantha.
So when a student enters a course and you have defined learning outcomes for them by saying, by the end of this course, the student is going to be introduced to this, and they're going to practice that, and they are going to learn how to do this other thing. You have to stay on track to do those things as well, and you need to create assessments that align with that. So it's really this commitment that you're making for your students to say, by the end of the course, I'm going to have created an environment in which you are going to be introduced to this, to practice that, to be able to see examples of this other thing. And so often we as educators know our content so well that we're like, yeah, don't worry, we're going to do our thing. But these learning outcomes are so important for making all those hidden aspects of those different types of curriculum even more clear for our students to say, by the end of the course, this is what you're going to be introduced to and practice, and I'm going to develop with you and for you.
Ya, jadi ketika di awal tadi kita sudah memiliki komitmen ya mengenai capaian pembelajaran dengan siswa, dengan berakhirnya mata kuliah ini nanti kita akan belajar mengenai ini, siswa memiliki skill ini begitu. Nah, dalam proses pembelajarannya, pengalaman pembelajaran dengan siswa sebagai guru kita harus konsisten ya. Jadi konsisten dengan apa yang sudah kita komitkan di awal pembelajaran. Seperti apa nanti siswa akan belajar, mungkin dari praktek, kemudian akan ada penilaian apa gitu. Jadi dari pengalaman itu mereka kemudian memahami bahwa sampai akhir nanti untuk capaian pembelajarannya itu tercapai gitu. Kemudian juga untuk aspek yang kedua, jadi ada poin-poin ya, mungkin secara konten, secara materi, topik yang kita berikan ke siswa itu sudah oke. Mereka juga sudah memahami kontennya secara oke gitu ya. Cuman tadi ada kurikulum yang tersembunyi mengenai asumsi dan hal-hal yang lain gitu. Nah, itu akan terjadi dalam pengalaman pembelajaran selama 1 semester itu atau dalam waktu yang ditentukan ya dalam periode perkuliahan gitu. Nah, itu sebagai pengajar kita harus konsisten dengan komitmen yang kita buat di awal sehingga itu menjadi fokusnya ke siswa, kemudian untuk pengalaman pembelajaran yang dialami oleh siswa.
It also clarifies the teaching and learning relationship. Now, this is not to say that you are going to create a set of learning outcomes that are so tight there isn't room for the exploration that comes when you meet the students and maybe other things need to happen. But it clarifies what the course is so that the student is coming in knowing what you're going to do and that you are going to come in knowing what you're going to do. It clarifies and identifies the goals, commitments, and requirements. In other words, what the plan is for this course. And that is really, really useful for students in knowing how to be a student in that course. And I know that was long, but I'll say one more thing. And for teacher candidates, it's important that you are modeling that for them as well, so that they are practicing that when they are in the classroom, when they're in their own classrooms.
Oke. Ya, jadi kurikulum harus jelas dan eksplisit ya untuk memperjelas hubungan antara mengajar dan belajar gitu. Jadi ketika siswa masuk di kelas, mereka tahu gitu dengan penjelasan mengenai capaian pembelajaran, apa yang ingin dicapai oleh gurunya, siswa menjadi mengetahui apa yang, oh ya, jadi saya di kelas ini akan seperti ini, apa yang harus saya lakukan gitu. Supaya di akhir pembelajaran nanti saya bisa memahami kurikulum atau memahami kontennya yang seperti apa, skill apa yang kemudian bisa bertambah gitu. Jadi ini untuk memperjelas hubungan antara belajar dan mengajar. Juga khususnya karena mungkin kebanyakan dari kita mengajar mahasiswa yang akan menjadi pengajar begitu ya. Jadi mereka juga sebagai pengajarnya, sebagai dosennya, kita juga harus membuat model atau modeling seperti apa menjadi guru yang baik gitu supaya jadi mereka bisa menirukan apa yang kita ajarkan di kelas-kelas nanti ketika mereka praktek mengajar kemudian setelah lulus nanti menjadi dengan gelar pendidikan itu tadi supaya mereka juga menjadi guru yang seperti yang kita harapkan sesuai learning outcome. Jadi kurikulum yang jelas atau eksplisit mengidentifikasi tujuan, komitmen dan persyaratan. Nah, apa yang penting sekarang adalah diskusi mengenai apa yang menjadi rencananya. Samantha.
So you might say, oh, I mean, don't worry. I already do that. I'm a great educator. It's fine. Don't worry. But if I say, like, what are your I don't know if that was you saying, like, no, I'm not a good educator. I'm sure that's not what you said.
No.
If you're to say, if I was to ask you what your program's goals were or your course's goals, and you said, oh, to develop movement skills, promote healthy habits, foster teamwork and respect, and encourage lifelong learning, active living, you might say, like, obviously we're doing that. We don't need learning outcomes. But if this is what your plan, if this is what your goals are, the learning outcomes are helping you figure out how you are meeting these goals. In other words, to set you up in order to start thinking about the plan that you need to have to be on track with that. Because without the plan, you could be doing it great, but without the plan, maybe your students aren't quite in alignment, or maybe you take a little detour. So it's really just articulating your goals and then ensuring you have a plan to meet those goals.
Yeah. Can you go back to the
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, like this one.
before? Ya, oke. Jadi mungkin di awal mengenai capaian pembelajaran kita ada pertanyaan ini ya untuk masing-masing. Jadi apa sih tujuan untuk program atau mata kuliah ini gitu? Oke, let's say ada 4 hal ini: mengembangkan keterampilan gerak dasar, mempromosikan perilaku sehat, memupuk kerjasama tim dan rasa saling menghormati, mendorong hidup aktif sepanjang hayat. Next. Next slide. Yes, oke. Nah, pertanyaan selanjutnya adalah bagaimana Anda memastikan tujuan ini dapat tercapai gitu. Jadi gimana mengembangkan keterampilan gerak dasar, caranya seperti apa gitu-gitu ya. Nah, itu butuh perencanaan. And next. Ya, jadi di highlight di tengah ini ya, butuh rencana untuk memastikan Anda atau kita semua sebagai pengajar atau pendidik tetap berada di jalur yang benar. Jadi bagaimana perencanaan itu kita buat menjadi sebuah artikulasi dari capaian pembelajaran yang ingin kita capai, gitu, supaya kita tetap on track. Oke, Samantha.
So, learning outcomes are the explicit end of the statement. By the end of the program or the end of the course, the students will. And it's not for a it's not for a quantitative accounting. It is an articulation of a relationship, the commitment that you're making to your students. Now, it can be used for quantitative accounting as well, and that's often useful on the program level. And I find, though, that if you start there, the courses start to feel disconnected from the program learning outcomes. So I always want you, if you are developing your course learning outcomes, to start developing that conversation at the course level and then move it up to the program level rather than vice versa in order to ensure that that commitment between you and your students is supreme.
Oke, jadi untuk learning outcomes, capaian pembelajaran, ada 2 tadi ya. Jadi untuk program itu CPL, eh, kemudian untuk mata kuliah atau course kita bilangnya CPMK untuk capaian pembelajaran mata kuliah. Nah, bisa dengan statement ini, jadi di akhir program atau perkuliahan mahasiswa akan, gitu, mungkin ini sudah sering juga kita lakukan, tapi juga perlu di note bahwa ini bukan merupakan perhitungan kuantitatif, tetapi artikulasi mengenai suatu hubungan. Tadi Samantha menyarankan dari CPMK dulu mungkin bisa berangkatnya untuk kemudian naik ke level yang capaian pembelajarannya, jadi learning outcomes-nya. Komitmen apa yang ingin Anda atau kita berikan sebagai pengajar atau pendidik kepada para mahasiswa.
Now, maybe you all get along really well in all of your departments and there's never any fighting and it's always very smooth sailing. And that's just a Canadian thing. But generally, I find that, again, starting with the course level helps you better articulate up to the program level. And we will talk a little bit more about that, but I just wanted to flag that. And so when you are developing your course learning outcomes and or program learning outcomes, and I will talk more about that, the question you need to have on your screen at all times with a little notepad or whatever are, what are you committing to your students that they will know, that they'll do, and they'll value by the time they're finished?
Ya, jadi apa capaian pembelajaran pada program atau mata kuliah Anda? Lebih ke apa yang Anda komitmenkan. Jadi dari capaian pembelajaran itu tadi intinya adalah komitmen ya. Jadi dari guru kepada siswanya, kepada mahasiswa bahwa mereka akan tahu, know, mampu melakukan, do, dan atau membangun nilai apa pada saat mereka selesai. So value nilai apa yang akan mereka pelajari ketika program atau mata kuliah itu selesai. Samantha.
And so this same question can be applied no matter what unit of teaching that you're doing. So, for example, by the end of the course, students will. By the end of the grade, students will. By the end of the unit, students will. By the end of the lesson, students will. By the end of the workout, students will. And I actually always use this workout example, but now I feel like it was perfect for this crowd because again, it is always the same question, even if you're doing something very big or something very specific. It's always the same question. You're just replacing whatever unit of education you're focusing on.
Ya, jadi mau di level apapun, pertanyaannya selalu sama ya. Ini ada beberapa contoh. Yang pertama di akhir perkuliahan ini, mahasiswa akan mampu untuk di akhir kelas ini, siswa akan mampu untuk di akhir unit ini, siswa akan mampu untuk di akhir pelajaran ini, siswa akan mampu untuk di akhir latihan ini, siswa akan mampu untuk gitu. Selalu pertanyaan yang sama. It's always the same question, Samantha.
Now, one of the reasons why I bring in the workout example is because this is an acronym called SMART, and it's about goal setting, and you will find it related to workouts as well. So it was like useful for me to bring that over. I don't know if it works as well as an acronym for you in Indonesian. Obviously, it's not quite as snappy, but it is the same type of framework for goal setting, which is, I'll wait, go for it.
Oke, jadi untuk frameworknya menggunakan ini ya singkatan ini SMART gitu. Dalam bahasa Inggris specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time based. Mungkin agak sedikit berbeda ketika diterjemahkan ke bahasa Indonesia. Tapi intinya itu, Samantha.
Yeah. So specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based are really important attributes because a lot of times what I'll find is professors will say, by the end of the course, the students will understand whatever. But understand is not a verb that is specific, measurable, or measurable. And then like, well, how are you going to prove that? Oh, well, students will write an essay or do some drills or do this or do that. Well, then say that. By the end of the course, students will write an essay explaining this. They will be able to complete 14 drills related to that. So these are really key. This is a really key framework for thinking about the development of your learning outcomes.
Ya, jadi untuk mendefinisikan capaian pembelajaran, kalau cuma dibilang di akhir, oh siswa akan paham gitu ya, akan memahami ini, itu tidak bisa diukur. It's not measurable. Jadi Samantha katakan tadi say it gitu ya, jadi harus dikatakan gitu. Apa di akhir pembelajaran? Oh siswa dapat menulis essay, misalnya apa gitu, akan mampu membuat 14 latihan atau contoh soal untuk ini gitu. Jadi harus dapat diukur sesuai ini ya, spesifik, dapat diukur, dapat dicapai, relevan dan berbasis waktu. Samantha.
So this is a bad learning outcome. Bad. Don't do this.
Okay.
And this is a
Contoh
bad
yang
learning
buruk ya.
outcome for a science class, just like a K to 12 science class. Students will know how hot it is on the sun and on the earth and keep track of how it changes over 10 years. That is bad. It is bad. And the reason why it is bad is because we can pull it through this SMART framework to be able to see the ways that it doesn't meet any of these criteria.
Oke. Nah, ini contoh yang buruk ya. Seperti yang bisa kita lihat di slide, siswa akan mengetahui seberapa panas di atas matahari dan di atas bumi dan memantau bagaimana perubahannya dalam 10 tahun. Nanti akan dijelaskan seperti menggunakan framework SMART ini, bagaimana kriteria itu tidak masuk di dalam contoh capaian pembelajaran yang buruk ini. Samantha.
Okay, so it's not specific. Here, this learning outcome says on the sun and on the earth. Like those are two totally different things. That is a different skill set. Those are totally different things, not specific at all.
Not specific at all. Yes. So, poin yang pertama spesifik ya. Jadi ini sama sekali tidak spesifik karena dua hal yang sangat berbeda di atas matahari dan di atas bumi. Next.
This is another word that people use a lot. Understand is a bad word, but also know is a bad word. Students will know how hot it is. How are you measuring that? There's nothing there. So that is, you're making a statement about what your expectations are for your student, but it's not an expectation. It's not a commitment. It's not an articulation of the relationship between how you are going to be able to see how students know that. So it's not measurable when you say students know something, just like when you say students understand something.
Oke, nah ini sama seperti kata pemahaman dia, siswa memahami gitu. Poin yang kedua mengenai measurable atau dapat diukur. Jadi untuk capaian pembelajaran harus bisa diukur ya. Kalau untuk mengetahui, memahami itu tidak bisa diukur. Jadi kurang jelas untuk capaian pembelajarannya, tidak bisa mengartikulasi. Karena kita juga tidak bisa mengukur seberapa mahasiswa sudah tahu gitu. Untuk mengetahui atau pemahaman tidak bisa dengan jelas diukur. Samantha.
Attainable. So keep track of how it changes over 10 years. How are students ever going to do that? Like, that is a very long time period. And the idea of changes over that time period, there's nothing there. It's not attainable at all.
Ya, kemudian attainable dapat dicapai di sini sangat lama ya, dalam 10 tahun gitu. Jadi ini adalah contoh yang buruk karena bagaimana siswa kita dalam kelas itu diminta untuk memantau perubahan dalam 10 tahun. Samantha.
Also relevant. So why are you measuring the sun and the earth? Like, maybe that makes sense. Sure. But what really is the relevance of that? Because the temperature on the sun and the temperature on the earth are two totally different things that
Yeah.
are kind of irrelevant to each other. I mean, they're relevant, obviously, but what is the relevant to each other? You also have no sense of when students are going to do this. Are you going to start them in grade 5 and then come back to them at grade 10? There's no time based. So there's even though this seems like you want to do a lot and you want students to do a lot, there's really nothing here. It's full of implicit hidden things that what you're expecting them to do. It's not a commitment to how you are going to help them get there.
Oke. Ya, jadi dua poin yang terakhir R dan T. Yang R tadi mengenai relevansi. Tadi dikatakan untuk matahari ya, ini di atas matahari dan di atas bumi gitu, sama sekali nggak relevan gitu. Ya mungkin sama-sama benda part of semesta gitu ya, matahari dan bumi, tetapi tidak relevan. Kenapa dua hal ini yang digunakan untuk capaian pembelajaran? Kemudian time base juga tidak ada waktu ya, berbasis waktu. Kayak oke, ini mau diajarkan di kelas berapa? Misalnya kalau tadi K-12 dari SD sampai SMA gitu, mungkin di kelas 5, kemudian selesainya nanti kelas berapa gitu-gitu. Karena untuk memantau perubahan tadi dalam 10 tahun ya. Jadi ini adalah contoh yang buruk mengenai capaian pembelajaran karena jadi banyak hal-hal yang tersembunyi, ada banyak yang kurang jelas, hidden gitu. Jadi tidak mencerminkan, tadi kan di awal dikatakan bahwa kita akan berkomitmen ya untuk dengan siswa gitu. Ini tidak ada komitmennya, bagaimana nanti guru atau pengajar juga memastikan bahwa siswa itu mencapai capaian pembelajaran. Tracknya tuh jadi nggak jelas gitu, karena capaian pembelajarannya buruk. Samantha.
So this is a good learning outcome for a lesson that actually could be very much the same. It's just that this is articulated with more explicit articulations of what is going to happen in that particular lesson, for example, or assignment. By the end of the unit, so it's time-based, students will have developed, there is our measurable, a chart with weekly average temperatures of their province and compare it across historical data. So here's that, 10-year period as well, but now we are saying it much clearer. So even though the educator may have had the same goals for the lesson with that first learning outcome and the second learning outcome, what the second learning outcome does is make sure that it is SMART, specific, measurable, attainable. What's the other one?
Relevant
Don't worry, go back for you. Yeah, relevant and
and
time-based as
time-based.
well. Yeah.
Oke, jadi ini contoh yang baik ya, yang di sebelah kanan, Bapak Ibu. Di akhir unit, siswa akan mengembangkan bagan dengan template rata-rata mingguan di provinsi mereka dan dibandingkan dengan data historis. Gitu. Masih mengenai hal yang sama, tapi jadi ini artikulasinya dia lebih eksplisit, lebih jelas, karena jadi bisa diukur, lebih spesifik, dapat diukur, dapat dicapai, kemudian juga relevan, dan berbasis waktu, time-based. Samantha.
Before I go, so the next part we're going to talk about is the program learning outcomes, but we're already at an hour, so I hope you're having fun. Does anyone have any questions before we continue?
Oke, sebelum lanjut, apakah ada pertanyaan dulu? Kita masih punya kurang lebih 30 menit. Masih ada beberapa slide yang akan Samantha jelaskan, tapi kalau ada pertanyaan, monggo. Mungkin satu atau dua.
Okay, I'll keep going.
Oke. Oke, kita bisa lanjut. We can continue first.
Oh, yang
Oh,
bakso
sorry, you had a question? Was there a
Oh,
question?
Ada
Did
pertanyaan?
someone have a question? Okay.
Maybe not. Yeah.
Okay. So, what is the relationship between program learning outcomes and course learning outcomes? You could think that they are like a Venn diagram, that they overlap. And that is true or false. But again, sometimes people will have a real problem with that because they want their autonomy in their courses. And so I don't think that this is the best model to think of the relationship between program learning outcomes and the course learning outcomes. So I don't think this is a good model, but some people might present it to you this way.
Ya, menurut Samantha mungkin hubungannya seperti ini ya dari bagian ini, tapi menurut Samantha ini bukan model yang bagus, bukan yang terbaik gitu, mengenai CPL dan CPMK.
Another way to think of it is that the program learning outcomes is the consolidation of all the course learning outcomes. But I don't think that's a great way to look at it either, because sometimes it's like too many cooks in the kitchen. Is that a phrase you know?
Ya.
Yeah, I'm sure that works. I'm sure that works across
Yeah.
all the kitchens. Yeah.
Ya, model yang lain adalah yang seperti ini, Bapak Ibu. Cuman tadi perumpamaannya, analoginya adalah terlalu banyak chef atau koki di dalam dapur gitu. Kalau modelnya seperti ini, jadi CPL itu adalah gabungan gitu ya dari CPMK yang ada. Samantha.
Another way to think of the relationship is that like a series of like nesting dolls, Russian nesting dolls. The program learning outcomes are bigger. Then we have our course learning outcomes, but we also have our learning outcomes for our lessons. And then we have the assessments in the courses. And I like this model because of the ways it demonstrates how your assessments are sitting in relationship with your lessons, with your courses, and with the program learning outcomes. So they're related, but I think this is a better way to understand that relationship, that they are all together and they need to work together, they need to fit into each other, but they're also distinct things.
Ya. Menurut Samantha, model seperti ini yang mungkin paling tepat ya untuk menggambarkan mengenai keterkaitannya, hubungan antara bagaimana asesmen mata kuliah itu ada di lingkaran yang paling bawah, kemudian itu adalah bagian dari capaian pembelajaran tatap muka, kemudian bagian dari CPMK, dan juga dari capaian pembelajaran lulusan CPL gitu. Jadi bagaimana mendemonstrasikan untuk pemahamannya. Jadi asesmen itu ada bagiannya sendiri-sendiri, tapi jadi asesmen itu di bagian bawah, kemudian dia merupakan bagian dari capaian pembelajaran tatap muka, CPMK, dan CPL. Samantha.
So when I work with programs at the university level on defining their program learning outcomes, and then they work with their professors to do course learning outcomes and assessments, this kind of nesting doll situation starts to look a little bit more like this, which is not quite as fun as dolls, but be that as it may, in that there is still that relationship, but you can't forget the assessments as part of that relationship that connects to your learning outcomes, which needs to connect to the program learning outcomes.
Ya, dari yang sebelumnya tadi, bagian yang sebelumnya, kemudian pada realitanya lebih seperti ini bagiannya. Jadi asesmen tetap di bagian bawah merupakan turunan dari CPMK dan CPMK adalah turunan dari CPL di atasnya. Samantha.
So program learning outcomes define the overall structure of the program, but the course learning outcomes are the expression of the program elements in discrete ways. So even though the program learning outcomes can seem all encompassing, those course learning outcomes are the ones that are more connected to the student experience, and they're the expression of what that looks like in the classroom. And that's why thinking about your course learning outcomes kind of separate from the program learning outcomes and then having that relationship back and forth means that there's still that link to that student experience, that link to the assessment. Was that too much in one go for you?
No.
Okay.
Just try to understand. Oke, jadi capaian pembelajaran lulusan mendefinisikan struktur programnya secara keseluruhan. Tetapi tadi CPL ya, Program Learning Outcomes. Capaian pembelajaran mata kuliah (CPMK) merupakan elemen program yang diekspresikan dengan cara yang berbeda. Dan tadi saya katakan bahwa CPMK, capaian pembelajaran mata kuliah, ini adalah yang lebih dekat gitu dengan student learning outcomes-nya gitu. Jadi dua hal ini separate, CPL dan CPMK, tetapi terkait tadi dengan asesmen yang di bagian sebelumnya ada di bawah CPMK itu yang lebih dekat gitu ya untuk bisa melihat student learning outcomes atau yang dicapai oleh siswa itu seperti apa, Samantha.
So I often worked with at York University, where I used to work, I often worked with programs that had to create program learning outcomes. So they wrote them without talking to professors about what they were doing in their classes. And then professors had to write course learning outcomes. And so they would write them without looking at the program learning outcomes. There was no relationship between them. And especially at the course level, courses that are not connected to the program learning outcomes just become this like muddle of independent puzzle pieces that isn't useful for a student's experiences. Just as the learning outcomes for your course is the commitment to your students about what they're going to know, do, and value in their course, the program learning outcomes are the commitment about what they're going to know, do, and value in the program. So without having your courses connected to those learning outcomes, it's just this series of independent puzzle pieces. What we want is to have a puzzle that works, individual pieces that work, but that make up that larger picture.
Oke. Ya, jadi apa yang terjadi di Universitas York, is it?
Yeah, York.
Ya, York, di mana Samantha ini bagaimana CPMK ya? Ya, CPMK itu kemudian menjadi independent series. Tadi di slide sebelumnya digambarkan menjadi puzzle yang bertebaran gitu ya, tidak teratur gitu. Karena kemudian CPMK-nya itu berjalan sendiri-sendiri, tidak sesuai dengan CPL yang ada yang dirumuskan oleh profesor, like let's say lebih di atasnya gitu. Jadi CPL-nya sendiri, kemudian CPMK-nya itu merupakan independent puzzle yang berdiri sendiri-sendiri gitu. Harapannya dari CPMK itu menjadi puzzle seperti yang gambar Mona Lisa ini ya yang di sebelah kanan gitu. Jadi CPMK-nya itu kemudian menjadi satu bigger picture, satu full picture yang mencerminkan seperti CPL-nya gitu. Jadi tidak berdiri sendiri-sendiri. Itu kenapa di dalam penulisannya kita CPL dulu, kemudian CPMK-nya apa di bawahnya gitu. Tapi jadi sebaiknya di dalam satu program itu kemudian CPMK-nya tidak berdiri sendiri-sendiri, tetapi disesuaikan dengan CPL yang ada gitu, sehingga menjadi satu utuh gitu ya untuk bigger picture-nya tidak berdiri sendiri-sendiri. Samantha.
So I'm going to come back to this. I hope it's not confusing, this relationship I'm trying to express between course learning outcomes and program learning outcomes. Actually, I'll just skip ahead so I can clarify something and then I'll come back here. Do you want to?
Ya, jadi ada sebelum ke sini, Samantha mau clarify dulu sesuatu sebelum balik ke sini. Ya.
Okay, so I understand that you have some standards that you need to adhere to. What I'm saying is that if you look at these and you just write learning outcomes from that, they're going to feel very disconnected from what you are doing. They have to align, of course. Don't worry, I'm not going to not say that. But if you start here, they aren't going to feel aligned with what you're doing because now you are taking these words and you're trying to make them fit your practice. And we want to do the opposite.
Ya, jadi ini yang Samantha pahami bahwa kita lakukan gitu ya. Nah, ini em, akan membuat mungkin kalau di awal jadi siswanya merasa agak disconnect gitu tadi dibilang dengan apa yang tujuan pembelajarannya apa gitu karena melihat apa yang kita tuliskan di sini untuk capaian pembelajaran itu kan untuk supaya kata-kata ini kemudian fit gitu ya into practice gitu. Jadi words that fit into practice untuk pelaksanaannya nanti seperti apa gitu. Nah, ini yang akan kita lihat seperti apa nanti untuk perumusannya. Samantha, there is one professor would like to ask question. Do you mind?
Okay, sure. Do you want to ask it now or do you want to wait?
Now,
No.
Now, okay, great.
thank you, Samantha. Sorry, I'm late to raise my hand.
No, it's okay.
Okay, my name is Tandio Rahayu. I come from Semarang State University.
Hi, welcome. Thank you.
Yes, yeah. Okay, I just want to know further your opinion. What should the curriculum be developed? How detailed the curriculum be developed? So it can remain flexible and adaptable. That may occur something change during the learning process. In my
That's a great
opinion,
question.
yeah.
That's a great question. I said that's a great question.
Yeah. Thank you.
Could I answer that as I go through the other slides? And then if I don't answer it clearly, we can come back to that?
Sure. Thank you very much.
Great.
Thank
Okay,
you,
great.
Samantha.
That's a really great question. Thank you for bringing that to the table now.
Okay.
And like I said, I will answer that in context.
Ya. Nanti pertanyaannya Pak Sadio akan dijawab dengan konteks ini setelah.
Siap.
Okay. So with this page here, with all due respect to this, and please do not get scared, I'm going to say when you're starting to write your learning outcomes, ignore this. With all due respect, we will come back to this.
Oke. Nanti akan kembali ke sini lagi.
What I want you to start with in writing your learning outcomes is to go back to these questions. What are your goals for the course? What do you want students to know by the end of the course? What do you want them to do by the end of the course? What do you want them to value by the end of the course? What I want you to do is I want you just to create a brainstorm. Don't worry about the number right now. Don't worry about the other standards. Don't worry about anything. Just make a big list of your goals, what you want them to know, to value, to do. That is going to get all of those hidden things out right away.
Oke, jadi dalam menulis CPMK, Samantha ingin kita semua kembali kepada 4 pertanyaan ini. Can you go to the slide before. Yes. Jadi apa tujuan atau goals mata kuliahnya? Apa yang Anda ingin mahasiswa ketahui pada akhir mata kuliah? No. Apa yang Anda ingin mahasiswa lakukan pada akhir mata kuliah ini? Do. And then value. Jadi nilai atau sikap apa yang harus dihargai mahasiswa pada akhir mata kuliah. Tapi jadi diawali dengan next brainstorm. Jadi dilupakan dulu mengenai angka-angka, kuantitatif, mungkin penilaian atau yang lain gitu ya. Eh, kita mulai dengan brainstorm dulu. Jadi memikirkan apa daftar ya, bikin daftar yang besar, a big list mengenai kira-kira mata kuliah ini tujuannya apa. Kemudian apa yang kita mau siswa ketahui, kita mau siswa lakukan by the end of the course dalam perkuliahan di akhir mata kuliah. Kemudian nilai apa yang kita mau siswa kita hargai atau pelajari di akhir mata kuliah. Yes.
And then take all of this brainstorming and start forming them into statements that are SMART.
Kemudian dari list tadi, dan setelah kita brainstorm, kemudian dimulai untuk membuat CPMK-nya, pernyataan menggunakan kriteria SMART tadi. Samantha.
So that you have a list of, by the end of the course, students will be able to do 1, 2, or 3, A, B, and C.
Jadi kemudian ini hasilnya, daftarnya di akhir perkuliahan mahasiswa akan bisa melakukan hal A, B, dan C.
And you're going to find when you take your brainstorming and you start writing them into statements that some of them are going to feel very specific. Some of them you're going to be like, oh, that's something that I want, but we don't really need to do that in the course. Like if you're teaching a particular sport skill, but you also want students to know how important like eating healthy food is, maybe that's a value, but you're like, oh, that doesn't have to be a learning outcome. Like we will come up with that. So when you take your brainstorming and you start writing these sentences or these statements, you're going to start to see what are things that feel too specific, what are things that might not be really that important, and you're going to come up with a list. And I'm going to tell you the number in a second.
Oke. Nah, kemudian jadi setelah ada hasilnya ini ya, untuk beberapa hasil dari kita brainstorming, kemudian ada daftarnya, kemudian muncul seperti ini, mungkin kita jadi akan bisa memilah lagi gitu. Oh, ternyata ini aku tadi aku mau jadi capaian pembelajaran, tapi kok ternyata nggak terlalu penting untuk ditulis gitu. Ada beberapa yang bisa menjadi kurikulum tersembunyi itu tadi. Mungkin kita maunya belajar sport skill tertentu untuk kemampuan olahraga tertentu gitu ya. Tapi kemudian kita juga mau siswa kita belajar mengenai pola makan sehat gitu. Nah, apakah semuanya perlu ditulis dalam CPMK? Mungkin kita merasa ada yang terlalu spesifik atau yang kurang spesifik atau tidak perlu dituliskan dalam CPMK. Nah, dari hasil brainstorming itu dan sampai di sini kita bisa mengetahui dan kita bisa memilah lagi gitu. Mana yang memang perlu kita tulis sebagai CPMK atau yang nanti value ini atau nilai yang kita mau siswa pelajari nanti bisa dalam prosesnya pembelajaran mereka akan belajar atau sambil kita ajarkan ke siswa mengenai skill-skill tertentu. Samantha.
I feel like at this point for course learning outcomes, it's really great to have about 3 to 5 course learning outcomes. So 3 to 5. But sorry, there's someone with an aggressive motorcycle outside. I don't know if you can hear that.
No, we cannot hear.
Oh, okay, good. I can. So I think 3 to 5, but at this point, you might actually have a longer list. You might have 8 to 10 because you're still playing around with them, and that's okay. Here is where you now need to check them against some other things. So our goal is about 3 to 5, but after this brainstorming process, you might have 8, you might have 10, you might have 12. That's okay.
Okay. Ya, jadi Samantha katakan untuk idealnya sebenarnya 3-5 CPMK cukup gitu ya. Tapi mungkin dalam hasil brainstorming tadi ketika kita membuat list atau daftarnya muncul 8-10, mungkin 12 gitu, nggak apa-apa. Tapi jadi di situ kita bisa lihat lagi, bisa kembali melihat untuk goalnya dari mata kuliah ini apa ya yang mungkin terlalu spesifik, tidak perlu disebutkan gitu. Tujuan kita 3-5 CPMK saja, Samantha.
This is where you now want to take your brainstormed list and you want to compare them now with the program learning outcomes, with the standards you need to achieve. This is where you can now take that thinking and now make that even more relevant because in my experience, of course, it's going to make sense with that larger list, but now you're working with something that's more aligned with your practice. And now when you take your thinking and you apply them here, you might find that you've missed a couple things, or you might find, oh, actually, I can bring those things together. And so this is now where you can take your list of 8 and 10 and to see if you can customize it a little bit more, refine it a little bit more. This might also be where you'll see, oh, I had these couple points, but it's not actually super relevant according to our larger framework. So I don't need to have them in as learning outcomes. I can just have them as maybe an activity that we do. So with your brainstorming, now you're thinking of it in relationship to this larger framework.
Oke, jadi dari hasil yang brainstorming tadi ada beberapa CPMK mungkin yang 8 sampai 10 di dalam goalnya kita tadi tujuannya untuk 3 sampai 5 CPMK kita bisa melihat kemudian dari standar yang ada dari CPL ya CPL yang mungkin sudah ditetapkan gitu ya ada contohnya mungkin dalam kurikulum nasional seperti itu. Jadi kemudian kita bisa melihat relevansinya apakah dari apa yang kita brainstormkan sudah mencakup apa yang terdapat di dalam CPL yang lebih luas, yang lebih standar gitu. Jadi dilihat relevansinya, kemudian kita sesuaikan lagi dengan apa yang sudah kita brainstormkan dan kita ingin siswa kita capai. Samantha.
In Ontario, we have something called degree level expectations, and all degrees that students get have to meet these degree level expectations, and they're defined not by the government, but by an agency separate from the government. And sometimes professors are like, no, I don't want the government dictating to me. And they get very angry. And so when we go through this process, they're like, oh, of course we do critical thinking. Of course we do quantitative reasoning. Of course we do this. Of course we do that. So it's a way to, again, align your practice with the expectations.
Okay. Is it like quality agency?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because here we also have.
Yeah. And you have to go like this when you're translating that part.
Ya, jadi Samantha bilang bahwa di Ontario itu ada degree level expectation, jadi ekspektasi untuk setiap degree ya atau jenjang yang dicapai oleh siswa gitu. Dan itu tidak ditentukan oleh pemerintah, tetapi oleh lembaga agensi mutu ya terkait kualitas gitu. Nah, itu yang jadi kemudian disampaikan, disampaikan kemudian ke universitas dan universitas menjadi yang loh gitu. Jadi karena ada standar yang lebih tinggi ya yang sudah ditentukan kayak tadi degree level expectation-nya, sementara apa yang ingin dicapai oleh universitas atau mungkin dalam yang lebih kecil ya lingkupnya mungkin fakultas atau program studi gitu menjadi berbeda. Kemudian juga jadi mereka gimana nih, bagaimana menyelaraskan gitu. Tadi align antara apa yang mau kita lakukan di kelas mengenai praktisnya dengan standar yang ada, dengan CPL yang ada. Samantha.
And so this is again where you narrow down your learning outcomes. But the other part where you have to start narrowing down your learning outcomes is when you look at your assessments. So maybe after this process, you still have 6, which I think might be too much for a course. Look at your assessments. Look at what you're actually asking students to do midway through the point of their course to show their learning. Maybe at this point you need to change your assessments if you have certain learning outcomes. Maybe at this point you need to change the learning outcomes because you realize, oh, this is actually important with the assessments. But this is where you need to start, this is how you then start thinking about that how to operate the learning outcome. Like it can't just live in space. It has to be attached to an assessment or an activity in a class. That's completely fine. It doesn't need to be assessed. It can be an activity as well. But you need to then think about will this actually happen in the class? And it can be difficult. Like I teach this, and when I was teaching my own class and I needed to have the learning outcomes and like align it up with assessments, I had to go back and forth between the assessments and the learning outcomes to really ensure they were in alignment. And so this is why you shouldn't have too many learning outcomes for a course because of the assessments. Again, I would shoot for about 3 to 5.
Ya. Oke, jadi kembali ke tujuannya tadi untuk 3 sampai 5 CPMK saja. Kemudian kita kaitkan tadi dengan CPL ya atau standar yang ada, misalnya di kurikulum nasional, kemudian juga mungkin ada dari kurikulum badan yang lain, agensi yang lain gitu. Dan yang harus kita ikuti. Masih ada 8 misalnya nih, masih ada 8 CPMK di list kita. Bagaimana untuk merumuskannya menjadi sesuai goal 3 sampai 5 CPMK. Nah, kita bisa lihat dulu di bagian bawahnya mengenai assessment atau penilaian. Jadi apakah kita lihat lagi ya di kelas nanti benar-benar bisa kita nilai, bisa kita assess, akan kita ajarkan seperti itu. Terkait dengan apa yang siswa nanti lakukan, apakah mereka benar-benar akan melakukannya atau tidak, penilaiannya seperti apa. Dan dari situ kita bisa merubah untuk asesmennya, disesuaikan lagi dengan pembelajaran di kelas gitu, supaya nanti kita bisa cek-recek lagi apakah sudah relevan antara tujuan yang ingin kita capai, apa yang kita mau siswa kita pelajari dengan apa yang kita nilai gitu. Mungkin penilaian ini mungkin membutuhkan siswa mengetahui tentang ini gitu. Oh ya, ini sudah sesuai juga dengan CPL gitu-gitu. Jadi mulai dicek-recek lagi mengenai relevansinya sehingga kita bisa mendapatkan sesuai tujuan 3 sampai 5 CPMK. Samantha.
And this is why I knew we weren't going to have enough time to talk too much about assessments because that's a whole other conversation, but I'm happy to have it with all of you. This is my email. You're more than welcome to get in touch with me. Does anyone have any questions that I can answer in the last 5 minutes? Although I'm happy to stay past my time, just so you know, but we do have 5 minutes left together.
Oke, jadi itu tadi emailnya. Kalau ada pertanyaan lebih lanjut, khususnya tadi mengenai assessment, ya karena tadi juga dengan Prof. Charlie dikatakan nanti ada sesi 2 dengan Samantha, so we're going to have session 2 with you, maybe discussing
Okay,
more
we can
details about assessment. But for now, we still have time to question and answer. But maybe can you please answer Prof. Tandio's question first, Samantha?
About how many?
About how detailed curriculum, the question previously mentioned.
Yes. So I would say for a course, you should have 3 to 5 learning outcomes. For a lesson, you should have about maybe 2 to 3 learning outcomes. For a program, I would say about 8 to 10 learning outcomes.
Oke. Jadi untuk CPL 8 sampai 10 itu tadi ya. Untuk CPMK 3 sampai 5. Gitu, Prof?
One more question, may I?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. I'm very interesting with your presentation, Samantha. So I have one more questions. You mentioned earlier that Ontario has a quality assurance agency that sets the learning outcomes. In your opinion, just your opinion, where should this learning outcome be based? Regional interest, national interest, or simply just for institutional interest? Thank you.
So in Ontario, we have degree level expectations, but then at each university, there are program learning outcomes. So the program defines their learning outcomes, and then each course has their learning outcomes. And so even though professors feel as if the degree level expectations from Ontario is too much oversight, in reality, they're very broad, and it's impossible to not meet them.
Yes.
Really, it's impossible to not meet them. But I think that it's important that there is intellectual freedom and academic
Ah,
freedom at the universities. And
yes.
so of course, professors should be in charge of their courses.
Mhm.
But the problem with programs traditionally is that it's been a series of independent courses without a clear way to bring them together. So, sorry, this is a long thing to this is a long thing to translate, but program learning outcomes really get professors in a program talking with each other about their own values in the program. And that's a conversation that I would be a part of, and that's really important. So the degree level expectations, to be honest, they're not difficult to meet. So I don't feel like they're too much oversight. I think that it's important that the program is developing their own learning outcomes. And I think it's important that professors are developing learning outcomes. But the the problem I have found is that even though, again, sorry, this is a bit of a Pandora's box of an answer. Even though professors will articulate the issue that they have is with like quality oversight, really the problem is they haven't been able to articulate their own commitments to their students. So they say it's one problem, which can be problematic, but the actual problem of developing learning outcomes is from a different position. So that's also something that I've worked a lot with professors with.
Ah, okay.
That
Thank
was a
you.
lot.
Yeah. Thank you very
I
much.
thought a lot about that.
Yeah. See you in part 2.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. Uh, yes, maybe one more question.
Yep, I'm fine. I'm a night owl, so 10 p.m. presentations are like my jam.
What time is it there now?
10:30 p.m.
30 p.m. Okay, 12 hours difference.
Yep.
Ya, Bapak Ibu, karena di sana juga sudah jam setengah 11 malam, mungkin kalau ada masih satu pertanyaan lagi, atau Kak Cali ada mau, oke, ada lagi mungkin yang lain mau bertanya?
No one else has questions.
We're waiting for part 2.
Waiting for part 2. Yep, the assessments.
Yeah, I already subscribed to your channel also on YouTube.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's great. I
But
haven't been updating lately. I've been doing other non-academic content. So yeah, but I've been meaning to start doing some new things. Yep.
Yes. Yeah, I haven't been able to watch all the videos, but it's interesting. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Well, if there are no other questions, again, you're welcome to email me. It was really great to think about these things for you. I hope you found it was useful. Obviously, I don't know your context well enough to be able to really, speak to some of the nuances, but hopefully it was broad enough that really helps you start thinking about it. And my recommendation, well, I'll leave you with 2 recommendations, but I'll wait. You can translate first.
Oke. Ya, jadi Samantha berkata eh, bahwa senang sekali untuk sesi pagi ini. Kemudian juga semoga apa yang disampaikan itu berguna, khususnya terkait dengan CPL dan CPMK yang terkait kurikulum ya. Bagaimana kita kemudian membuat learning outcomes atau untuk goals di dalam setiap mata kuliah atau yang kita lakukan itu sesuai dengan standar, tetapi juga lebih untuk relevansinya apa yang bisa kita komitmenkan akan kita ajarkan untuk siswa kita bisa ketahui tadi ya, siswa bisa ketahui, lakukan, kemudian nilai-nilai apa yang bisa mereka pelajari gitu. Nah, ini masih awal, kemudian nanti ke depan akan ada sesi lagi harapannya dengan Samantha terkait dengan asesmen. Nah, ini ada 2 rekomendasi yang akan diberikan oleh Samantha. Yes, please.
So, my recommendation 1 is when you get stuck in doing any of this writing, do that brainstorming. Know, do, and value. That is your bread and butter.
Okay.
or another analogy that works better for you.
Yeah.
If you start with the high level, you're going to get stuck because it's not going to feel authentic. Start with brainstorming. And
Okay.
then the second thing is in the brainstorming, go back to those assessments. Make sure you take a look about whether or not what you are going to assess, what you're going to teach, is in alignment with the commitment you're making to your students. And those are the two pieces that are the most important part.
Oke, jadi ada dua rekomendasi. Yang pertama adalah ketika kita merasa stuck ya di dalam menulis CPMK gitu-gitu, lakukan brainstorming sama seperti tadi ya. Bagaimana kita memikirkan apa yang siswa kita mau ketahui, kemudian lakukan dan nilai apa yang kita mau mereka pelajari. Kalau kita mulai dari high level, dari level yang tinggi, mungkin kita akan ngerasa too much ya, akan terlalu sulit gitu untuk melakukan. Tapi ketika kita dari sesuatu yang kecil, dari yang kita mau lakukan, dari brainstorm itu, kita bisa nggak get stuck gitu dalam menulis CPMK. Kemudian yang kedua, juga brainstorm lagi. Dalam brainstorm itu kita juga harus melihat apa yang akan kita nilai, apa yang kita akan evaluasi, assessment, dan apa yang kita ajarkan kepada siswa gitu. Karena itu akan kemudian relevansinya dengan komitmen kita di awal. Untuk capaian pembelajaran, goalsnya apa sih yang mau dicapai gitu. Jadi bagaimana dari komitmen yang kita punya ke siswa, kita konsisten melakukannya, dari apa yang kita akan nilai ke mereka, apa yang kita ajarkan, itu sesuai dengan learning outcomes tadi yang kita mau mereka capai.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation and have a wonderful weekend.
Happy weekend, everyone. Terima kasih sudah join di sesi pagi ini.
Thank you, Samantha.
Thank you, Samantha.
I'm happy to stay on till everyone leaves in case you want to.
Maybe we can make a photo group together.
Oh, yeah, we can do that. I mean,
Yes. Bapak Ibu mungkin bisa untuk dokumentasi, bisa dinyalakan untuk kameranya supaya kita foto bersama. Ya. Oke. Oh, there's someone still want to join the. Oke, I will take the photo. Ada beberapa layar, Bapak Ibu. Ini layar pertama dulu ya. Baik, bisa lihat ke kamera. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Oke, sekarang halaman kedua. Oke, bisa lihat ke kamera. 1, 2. Oke, that's
there are
all.
people driving. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. For you.
For
It's
me.
They don't want to miss
Oh my
you.
gosh.
All right. Thank you, Samantha.
ya, Samantha.
Thank you very
Terima
much.
kasih semuanya.
Terima kasih semua.
Selamat
kali
Pak
Samantha,
Panjo.
Bu Piska.
Oke, ya.
Terima kasih banyak.
Selamat pagi.
Terima kasih semuanya. Assalamualaikum.